Hello and welcome to Let's Pod This. My name is Andy Moore. It's good to be with you again this week. Happy Friday in the big town. It's Memorial Day weekend, everybody. It's the time that we reflect and honestly appreciate the lives and the service of our servicemen and women that have served today and that have gone before. I'm the son of a veteran, the grandson of a veteran, certainly an important part of my life. And I know it is for many of you as well. Scott is out of town this week, but we have a special guest in studio standing in, and we're going to have a different kind of episode this week. Joining me is my good friend, Pastor Mac from First AME Church here in Oklahoma City. Welcome to the show, Mac.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Mac and I were just hanging out here in the Democracy Den, having a little chat about, somewhat about a podcast that he's going to be launching soon, and we'll have more information about that when we get a little bit closer. But we decided to take the conversation to the microphones. So, listeners, you get to sit in. Mac, this is your debut here on Let's Pod This. We just want to, I think, let listeners get to know you a little bit for those who might not already know you.
Sure.
So let's start at the beginning. When did you come to Oklahoma City? How long you been here, and what brought you here?
So that's a good question. I've been in Oklahoma City for about a year and a half now. And
so that's like all post-pandemic, really, right?
Yeah, post-pandemic.
Yeah.
I moved here in November 2021, and I moved down from Philadelphia. I was serving in Philadelphia for about the last 10, 12 years. And one day I just I felt like there was something more to do. I felt like I had reached a ceiling of creativity and I was asking for something new, something challenging, something different. And one day I got a call about coming to Oklahoma. And at first I didn't know anything about it. But I began to really start getting excited about the city, started getting excited about all the things that I could get involved in here. And so ultimately I decided to take a leap of faith and step out and try something different. And I have been thoroughly surprised since I've been here. I've met some of the most friendliest people here in the city. I've been received well. I've made some amazing connections, amazing friends. And so I'm excited about my journey here in Oklahoma City. I'm excited about all the things that we're doing. And so I moved here and got to work. I moved here because I was assigned to First AME Church. We call it FAME OKC.
Yeah. And
so everything is FAME OKC. I moved here to pastor First AME Church, and I found a loving congregation that was a church that was looking to do some progressive things, but also I didn't just come to pastor the city. Come to pastor the church. I came to pastor the city. I came to be a voice. I came to be an inspiration. I came to get into some good trouble. I came to make some alliances and some friends, but I also came to live life. And so thus far, I'm enjoying my life in Oklahoma City. And I recommend a lot of people to come check it out. I'm telling you, it's amazing here, and I'm appreciating my time here, so for sure.
Well, that's good. Well, we're happy to have you. Now, Philadelphia, I just Googled, is like about 1.5 million people in population, so roughly twice the population of Oklahoma City. Certainly more dense, right? Oklahoma City's sprawling and big.
Sure.
So that is I would imagine, from the city of brotherly love to coming here to the big friendly, as we call it. What stood out to you most that's different about Oklahoma City versus East Coast living?
Yeah, just the of course the land and how spread out things are. I think the biggest thing is how calm everything is here.
Okay. Just a slower pace.
Slower pace, and I'm used to a lot of hustle and bustle. And so the hustle just looks a little bit different here in Oklahoma City, right? It's different in terms of just I spend so much time up north not speaking to people to the point where I get nervous when people speak to me who I don't know. And then I moved here and I'm reminded that, Oh yeah, I was raised by Southerners. I was raised right with manners.
Yeah.
And so I was remembered here that I can speak to people and they would speak back, and people smile at you, and people ask you follow up questions. You usually say good morning, and if you say how you doing, folks say I'm good, and then you keep walking. But people here have a follow up question. I wasn't quite used to. I wasn't quite used to people really wanting to be engaged in conversation,
Yeah.
and so. But other pieces just again slower, but also. Not slow in terms of lesser, just a different pace. And so what I've been enjoying the most here is just the absolutely. I'm a huge walker, and so I enjoy the space to walk, and so I walk a lot of miles a day, and so I've been able to walk around OKC. So a lot of people probably have seen me. Just in different places walking, and so that's been one of the benefits of enjoying just the outdoor space. Every restaurant here has an outdoor patio or bar or some type of situation. But again, just the friendly people, and different. I guess different in terms of just the landscape of just in terms of who you kind of see the kind of things that you hear talking about or things happening. But the same issues are in Philadelphia, the same issues here in OKC. People just wanting a chance to chance for their family to thrive, families, a place for opportunities to be available to them, and so in that regard, it's a lot similar. And so I do miss Philly so every now and then. So the good thing is the mayor's wife is from Philly.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Mayor Holt's wife Rachel is from Philly.
And so when I met the mayor, the first thing he said was, I walked into his office. And he says, oh, "Hey, that's the guy from Philly." And I guess the beard gave it away, right? And he says, "Hey, my wife is from Philly, and we have a Rita's water ice." And so I'm a huge water. Anybody who knows Philadelphia, water ice is a major a treat for us. And so there is a Rita's water ice here in Edmond. And so I went to Rita's, so I have a little bit of Philadelphia.
Oh, that's funny.
In the area. So I do appreciate that. Shout out to Rita's. Thank you for that.
I don't know anything about Rita's water ice.
We gotta go to Rita's. You gotta go to Rita's. Now, if I had it my way, I probably would bring some other water ice companies, but Rita's is definitely a staple. And so you definitely one day we gotta just have the Rita's and let you enjoy some.
So is it like a snow cone? What is it?
No, it's like
is it just ice water?
No, it's like right. So it's like a ice. So imagine like the so I grew up with like Italian ices, right? And so it gives you kind of that feel, but it's a little softer.
Okay.
They have like custard and they have like different things, and so but the flavors are just amazing. So I'm a huge like blue raspberry, Swedish fish. That's my mix those two little sour green apple or something that nature. Yeah, so it's a wonderful, especially in the summertime. There's nothing better than Rita's, and then or water ice on in summertime, and then 4th of July. So as a matter of fact, when I went to Rita's, I discovered it on 4th of July last year. And so I was thoroughly surprised and went and enjoyed as I was with them. So I watched the fireworks. Yeah. I enjoyed some water ice. And so, it's a big deal. You got to try
Let's go. All right. It's the first day that it hits 90 degrees. We're going to go.
Listen, we got to go.
That sounds great. I want to back up a little bit to the church, to First AME. And some of our listeners may not know what an AME church is. Can you give us like a quick background on that denomination?
Yeah. Well, AME is African Methodist Episcopal, right? And it simply means that we were a denomination that was founded by people of African descent, right? It is the really the first political movement uprising, I would say, in the country. In 1787, Richard Allen and Absalom Jones and a few believers, they were worshiping at St. George's United Methodist Church in Philadelphia. And one day they was praying at the altar and was tapped to get up to allow white parishioners to come in. And Richard Allen famously said, "If you let us finish our prayer, we won't bother you any longer." And so they finished their prayer, and all of the black people walked out of St. George's and formed what was then called the Free African Society. And the Free African Society was a mutual aid society that was used to kind of like build wealth among black people. So if you ever read the book Fever 17, whatever it is, 1797, whatever, you will see the Free African Society, Richard Allen, having a big part during the Yellow Fever movement.
Yeah.
Right. And so they developed like schools. The Free African Society utilized their money to kind of go buy freedom from other persons who were enslaved. And so they began to build businesses in Philadelphia, and from then that movement began to move around the country and eventually form what we know now as the AME Church. And so our connection here in Oklahoma is huge. There is actually a book out now that talks about the connection between African Methodism in Oklahoma, and talking about how early on in our movement, people like Jarena Lee, people who understand women and preachers, female voices in this struggle. You know the name Jarena Lee, and she in this book explores her organizing here in Oklahoma, and free Africans and Native Americans working together to build these communities together. So the AME Church has always been kind of like a place that built schools and places, built communities, and it was always in the forefront of that. And so that's who we are. And so kind of like me coming here was reclaiming some of that, what we've lost, or reclaiming some of that identity of a place where we are a community building organization, a community building church. We are very concerned about the community, very concerned about our neighbors, and want to express love and have a certain sense of activism engaging in society. And so that's who we are as good AMEs. So I think we're representing Bishop Allen well in that regard. But reality is just promoting freedom. But in fact, Bishop Allen is known as Freedom's Apostle. Right, and so I've kind of taken on that spirit and that mantra, and it's come to places to preach liberation, to let people know that all people are free, right? That this relationship, this community is available to all people, and to work and good things happen when we come together to form community, right? So they form the Free African Society, they form the church, and from there you have all of these schools. You have HBCUs. You have schools like Wilberforce and Morris Brown and Edward Waters. You see what I'm saying? We have schools short of college. From us, you have all different institutions, different laws that are changed, and different things that are happening. So we have always been in the forefront of trying to shift society for the better good. And so I look at my role as a pastor to not just preach Jesus, but to also show the work. And to show that compassion and to show what that looks like. And so we do that by how we serve. And so how do people feel after encountering us? How our lives impacted, right, from our work? How are situations different because of what we hear? And so that's the spirit and the realm that AME operate out of. So that's who we are. So naturally, me coming here and being assigned to First AME, I took on that mantle, and I have been in the city making sure to promote social change, to promote goodness and mercy, and to show that love ultimately wins, and love can lift us all up.
Yeah, man, that's that's beautiful. Is what I was going to say, and also it is reminding me of my own life growing up in the church, not the AME Church. I grew up Nazarene. And went to Nazarene College, and
sure.
I've attended my share of Baptist and Methodist and Presbyterian churches along the way, and I don't think that I've ever heard the gospel described as closely connected to community as I have whenever you and I have chatted.
Sure.
And
the gospel is all about community, right? I mean the whole concept of the good news is that you now have a community, right? That you now have a space where you can be welcomed in, and how, and your judgment or not, your success is based upon how well you serve others, right? this faith is about how much can you pour out to others? How much can you give to others? Right? How much can you serve others? Right? When I was hungry, you fed me. Right? When I was naked, you clothed me. When I was in prison, you visited me. When I was a foreigner in your land, you welcomed me. See, all these things are gospel, right? And these are all. This is exactly what Jesus said, right? He says, "As you've done unto the least of these, so have you done unto me." So my whole idea is to often seek out the least of these, right? The people who who Jesus Himself identified with. And so when I see people, I see Jesus, right? When I see suffering, when I see pain, I see Jesus. When I see joy and I see happiness, I see Jesus. So it's my idea and my job as a pastor, as a leader, is to show that side and let people know that this love is available and community matters, right? Jesus said Himself on love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and soul, but then love your neighbor as yourself. On these two things hang all the laws. And so we at Fame, we focus on love. Like our whole motto is where love comes first, right? That whole idea is love is here, right? No matter where you are, no matter where you come from, no matter your background, no matter who you love or how you love, love is available to you, and that's the whole idea. And so when we can't talk about the gospel without talking about its relationship with community, because that's what the gospel is how we relate to one another, how we relate to our God, and whatever. Again, I'm also understanding that people have different faiths, different gods, and different things, right? But all of us have a central thing of how we of loving loving something higher than us, but also how we treat one another. And so you cannot have one without the other. And I think when we separate the two, that's when conflict and issue come about. So we can't talk about, to me, and we can't talk about it without talking about its effect on community. The whole idea, everything we're doing, is about building up community, right? In fact, we are in Pentecost. For those who don't understand what this season is, I mean, this is literally when the church is formed, right? This is the weekend when the church is birthed, and from that church being birthed, people literally were sacrificing all that they had to make sure that nobody in the community had lack, right? People literally gave everything that they had, their own stuff, their own dream, their own thing, to put that aside to make sure that everyone else had in their community, right? Imagine if the church looked like that, right? If we made sure that we just gave a little bit of what we have, right, to make sure that everyone has, right? If we just did a little extra work to make sure that somebody else is encouraged, right? If we just did a little extra this and that and forth, how much further can we really go? So yeah, that's the good news. That's the gospel, and it's not just what you preach, but it's also how you live, right? It's how you demonstrate your life. Jesus said to Peter, "If you love me, feed my sheep." And so I always tell people, if you love your God, if you love your faith, feed the people, right? Sow into people, build up people, love on people, and that's what this thing is about.
Yeah. I've never thought about Pentecost being the original mutual aid organization, but that makes a lot of sense. And we've got some partners down in Norman at Red Dirt Collective, which is a really dynamic mutual aid organization down in Norman, doing really good work for the community there. And this is probably a good way to transition the conversation. So a lot of the chats that you and I have had have not necessarily been about the church, but about the community, right? And I think you've done an excellent job of kind of weaving that narrative together here for our listeners. But let's talk a little bit about, could you share the story about going to the Human Rights Commission meeting where you had to get up and introduce yourself? Would you mind?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so moving here, and again, I moved here to be involved. I moved here to pastor the city, so I attend most city council meetings and try to lend my voice where I can. And so we was working to get a Human Rights Commission passed, and
that we used to have, and it was disbanded. Okay, and they reinstated it.
Sure, right. And so I came, and so I said, how can I lend my voice to this conversation, right? Because obviously, it's something that I felt that we needed. And I was listening to a lot of the public comments, a lot of the comments during the debate on this particular thing, and I kept hearing Jesus come up. I kept hearing faith and these things are as arguments against a human rights commission. And so,
hang on, let's repeat that. You kept hearing the name of one faith leader come up as an argument against.
And again, I know we just said, right? We just literally said that this is literally what Jesus has said to do, right? And so I kept hearing this narrative about faith and why we should not have this, and so it was moved upon me to speak, to use the voice that I have. I have the voice to say something. And when I got up, what probably ended up being one of the most powerful moments in my life, I stood up and I said, "Hey, I am Pastor Mac. I pastor First AME Church, and I am the son of lesbian parents." Right. And it was the first time I had a mother is happily married to a wonderful wife, Alicia, who I love them both. And so shout out to them when they hear this. Moms, I love you all, right? But it was my first time even saying that out loud. And I had it was a very, very spiritual moment for me, because I said, what took me so long to say this? And it took me knowing that somebody else's rights were being threatened, or that somebody else's love was being told that it wasn't good enough, or that somebody's life or feelings wasn't being regarded in terms of compassion. And so I felt it important to make sure that we identified with this thing that and anybody who has heard me preach, anybody who has heard me say, I'm not saying anything different. I always say, Jesus says, if I be lifted up, I'll draw all people unto me. And whenever I do this, people know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say all people, all black, all white, all gay, all straight, all trans, right? If that is lifted up, the promise is all of these people are welcome to him. And so my job as the pastor of fame, my job as a proclaimer of Jesus, is to let people know that all people are welcome into this faith. And that this thing is a welcoming space. It's not an exclusive thing. This is a very inclusive community. And the whole idea and everything that we're getting involved in, again, I want the church to be inclusive, but I want my city to be inclusive. That all voices matter in this space, and not to be cliche in saying that, sure. But you get what I'm saying, that we're lifting up the least of these, right? Mm-hmm. That the least of the voices are being heard, and that they're also acknowledging the fact that there's issues, there's problems, and that people need to be able to go to a place where they can be helped and be heard and be considered as human beings. And so having a human rights commission, I didn't think would be that big of a debate about where our faith should lie on that, but apparently it was. And so part of the work is reintroducing this faith, right? And so it's providing outlets for progressive faith leaders to kind of talk about faith in spaces where it normally hasn't been talked about, right? Especially in a place like Oklahoma, where is quote unquote the Bible, it's in a Bible belt in religious town. So it's very important that we also have people speaking and letting people know that, listen, this faith is welcoming. This faith is big enough for all of us. And even if you don't pray like I pray, right? Even if you don't call Jesus, right? My some of my closest friends, my best friend, and not I have friends from all walks. From my Muslim friends, I'm from Brooklyn, and I'm cool with 5%ers, right? I'm cool with agnostics and atheists. I'm cool with everybody. My whole idea is, again, it goes down to loving all people, right? And being an inspiration and being a light to those people. And so a city should have a place where people can feel safe. All their citizens should feel safe. They shouldn't feel discriminated against. They shouldn't feel less than or unworthy. They should feel as if they are a human, and that their rights matter, and that their voices are important, and that we are doing everything that we can to make sure that every citizen in our city feels safe. And that shouldn't take a lot of debate. That should be something that we all should strive for, right?
Right. Like that shouldn't be subject to your religious affiliation. It shouldn't be subject to your political affiliation. And I think this is probably like the intersection, right, of church and state, and I'll say policy as like a third element there, because I think we all know that like there's a constitutional separation of church and state in the United States and in Oklahoma, although that line gets blurrier all the time.
All the time.
And then one of the components I think is often absent from all of those conversations is we'll say tangible public policy around everything else that's not like I don't know, to paint with a broad brush, anything else that's not like a cultural lightning rod issue of the moment, right? This year in the state legislature, they opened, right, with all of these anti-trans bills.
Wow.
Away, right? We've seen most years they open with anti-abortion bills or pro-gun bills, and it's almost become a trope, right, among folks.
Imagine now. Pause for a second. I know this is your show, so
no. Go ahead.
Please don't. Now you just said anti-abortion, but pro-gun.
Right.
Anti-abortion, but pro-gun. And the same group is talking about lives mattering, right?
Mm-hmm.
About life being precious. And they're talking about the life of a child. How many children have we lost this year to gun violence? All right? How many children are going to school after having to go through a pandemic, learning at home? They're finally able to return to a familiar, safe place and have to worry if that day at school is their last.
Yeah.
All right? Because people won't keep that same energy about guns as they do about a trans bill or about an anti-abortion bill.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that same energy.
Mm-hmm.
All right? The reality is this. People have the right, especially in this country, right? In this country, the pursuit of happiness, right? People are people. Trans people are people, right? Trans kids are kids, right? And the fact that you would take time and energy to pick on kids. Think about this for a moment.
Yeah.
Right?
Uh-huh.
We literally became we are justifying being bullies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We are using our platforms and our spaces to bully children, to bully kids, right? To tell a child who identifies as themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
That something is wrong with them, that they can't have access to medical care, right? We're having conversations about a woman's right to choose, a choice, right? This is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about whether you are for abortion or blah, blah. If you're against abortion, then don't get one,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you are anti-abortion, then don't worry about it, right? But a woman's body is her body, right? That is her choice, all right? In the same way, people say, I don't want, especially people who talk about small government, right? And don't want a lot of government overreach. This seems, just to me, right, like a reach, right? It seems like I don't want government also in my doctor's appointments, right? I also don't want politicians in my diagnosis report or my treatment plans, right? I don't want that happening in that space, right? Yeah. And so it's funny again with small government or talk about freedom in some areas, and then are so closed off in others. And all I want is for us to realize that, listen, Look at the state of where our country and our nation is. Look at the things that are ravaging our nation, and tell me, and look at when we're talking about policies and voting for people and everybody, look at the people who are talking about those things.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Again, at the end of the day, I want all people to be affirmed. Right. I want people to feel safe. I want just because a person, again, people don't have to believe like me. That's absolute. I'm not even knocking a person's belief. That's not what I'm doing even in this moment, right? But I am knocking how we practice our beliefs. I am knocking how we even try to use our places that should be built for community building, should be built for something positive, and turning it into something that is so negative. And so I would like to, again, in those same persons, I would like to, those same energy, the conversation. People are also hungry in our state. All right. People are also paying more for eggs than they are for gas, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, these are real things that are happening in real time that we're not talking about.
Right.
We're not debating those things. We're not coming up with any policies to fix those things. We're not trying to solve food deserts. We're not trying to make sure that our schools have everything they need to make sure that we're not doing any of that stuff. But we're talking about what now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? You mean to tell me that people campaigned and worked for you? I mean, I'm talking about all the people who elected. I mean, people chose you. People went to the polls and said, you are our person, and we voted for you. And you go there and talk about what? People believed. I mean, you have a golden. I'm talking to everyone. You have a golden opportunity to make change, to leave a positive impact and legacy for your life and your family, and you're using this time to bully trans kids.
Mm-hmm.
Using this time.
Yes, I think that all the time. That like you could be heroes, right?
You could be heroes.
You could leave a legacy of building up this state in really tremendous, longitudinal, important ways, right? You could leave a mark on this. Why would you squander that?
Why would you squander that? Right, you have an opportunity that again, and the people who elected you to represent them, right? The people elected you to get some things done on behalf of them, right? And that should be the concern.
And you know me, like I'm a bit of a policy wonk about this stuff, and this is where like my brain goes to this point of like, we say that with like a huge asterisk after it because we know that. Well, a lot of legislators were not elected, right? They filed, nobody else filed, so they won by default. So no one actually wanted them there. We don't know. We just don't know. They won once, and then they got to stay in because no one challenged
them. Right.
There's so this is, you don't know me well enough to know, but like one of my big soapboxes, like I will always beef with people who say, vote them out. I'm like, we don't vote anybody out. Mm-hmm. We can vote for somebody else.
Yes.
But there's, with the exception of some judges, which is weird that we elect anyway, but that are like retention ballot. But other than that,
sure,
most elected officials, you do not vote out. You vote them in or you vote somebody else in.
Sure.
And you have to have somebody else. And I think this is important to say right now because we're starting to see people but announce candidacies for next November, right? So 18 months out.
Sure.
And if you're thinking about running, you should be, now's the time, right? Like, because most people to run a successful campaign are probably going to need to do it for about 18 months.
Yeah.
And I think you and I just said this a few minutes ago out there, but like voters deserve the opportunity to vote for a candidate, right?
Yeah.
And when there's only one person that files, we are deprived of that opportunity. And furthermore, I'll say like,
what's the deprived of debate?
Yeah, that person's not ever held to account.
Right. We never have to have a conversation with them. And again, and I'm going to piggyback what you said about if people are thinking about running, right? Because I think sometimes we're looking for somebody else to save us. Mm-hmm. And the reality is that some of us who are listening know that know that we have the passion and the zeal and have the ideas and want to get more involved, do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Offer your voice, offer your service, offer yourself up, right? Contest some of these things. You have that option. You have that right. And again, every election is about voting for somebody, voting for someone. And our job is to, and if you're going to be that person to run, make your case known.
Right. And no, I will say I'm certain that there are listeners right now yelling at their radio like,
sure,
I can't. Like, my elected officials who represent me in their districts are good. I like them. They do a good job. My problem is people somewhere else, right? Well, and that may be the case, right? Like, I'm pretty well represented. I like almost all of my elected officials, top to bottom, right? But Oklahoma has a lot of elected offices, right? So,
a lot of them.
So just as a quick rundown, right?
You have a lot of elections too.
We have a lot of elections.
You have
way
a
too many.
lot of elections.
So help me out here, but let's start at the bottom, right? You got like your city council member.
Sure.
Then you got, in Oklahoma City, you got a mayor that's elected citywide. You've got a county commissioner. There's 3 for the county. So they each have districts. You've got other county offices, countywide treasurer, county assessor, county clerk, county court clerk, district attorney. Am I missing one? Sheriff. So there's all those county offices. Then at the state level, you got state house, state senate. You've got a governor, lieutenant governor, state treasurer, state auditor, state superintendent of public education, labor commissioner, insurance commissioner, attorney general. All these are all offices that you could feasibly run for. Then school board. Then,
which we definitely need more people on the school board.
Yeah, and there's going to be some openings, right?
Yeah, we definitely need more people on the school board. So please, ma'am, please, sir, if you think about run for school board.
School board's a big deal. Then you've got other like the corporation commission, right? There's this is like an unsung important thing. The corporation commission is a 3-person commission, 3 people that are all elected statewide. And they oversee the energy companies for the whole state. So like all of these rate hikes, right? And I think 2 of those seats will be up next year. So that's a big one. Then you've got, your congressional representative, and then the 2 senators. There are a lot of offices top to bottom. And maybe elected office is not for you in some way. But like in Oklahoma City, there's like 600 commissions that are like city commissions that you can apply for, and the governor or your city council member can appoint you to the traffic commission, recreation, there's like hundreds of them that you could serve on, but you got to raise your hand and say, I am interested, I'm willing. And it's one application, I think, for you can pick all the ones you want to do.
I mean, Andy, listen, we had a reality star as president.
Yeah, right.
I think
right. If Donald Trump can get elected, you can get elected.
That's my point. And again, I'm not using this time to say anything about anything. I'm just saying what I'm saying.
Right.
The isness of the isness is a reality star won a nationwide election and is leading in the polls as we speak for his party nomination, right? And so if there's any doubt in your mind of qualifications or things, as you say, there are so many different levels to get involved, right? Maybe elected politics isn't for you, but there is some level of a qualification that you I'm sure that you have, that you can definitely be involved in, and that's what's main. But I think a lot of people sit on the sideline because they just don't think that they have it. Right. You just think they know I would elect me. I don't have it. That's not really that's not for me. That's for them, right? And to that reality star's credit, what he did show was that ordinary people can run for office, right? What he did show is that people, if you want to be involved in this thing, you absolutely can. Just be involved.
Governor Stitt, had not even voted for governor, ever, and he ran.
Now he's governor twice.
He's a 2-term governor.
Governor.
Like, you can be not involved.
Don't take his advice though. Please vote. Please vote. If you play on, please vote. Please vote.
That's exactly right. But your point is well taken. I had a conversation with a young woman the other day who's in college, and thinks she wants to run for office. And she's like, well, I think once I graduate, I'll probably work for like 4 to 6 years, like where she's going to college and maybe come back here because she'd gone away to college. And then like after like 6 or 8 years, I might run for office. She's like, I want to build up my qualifications. And I just stopped her. I was like, you are qualified today. Like there are several representatives right now who ran for office right out of school. It is their first job out of college.
Sure.
It's like, you are qualified. You could run tomorrow. Like, you can do it. But people don't believe that, right?
They don't believe. And part of our job, Andy, is to make people believe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Part of the work that we're engaged in is making people believe. It's inspire people to believe, and so believe in themselves, believe in the possibilities, and believe that better is available. And get this, sometimes you are the better, right?
Yeah.
And whether it's simply lifting up your voice, simply being more engaged and more involved, you are literally can be the better.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you absolutely do not want to do it, or you can't for some reason or whatever, you can still attend meetings. You can help out people who are running.
Yeah.
You can participate.
There's so many things you can do to really, and again, to get in, to really see what you want to see happen.
Mm-hmm.
Our voices are powerful.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize how powerful their voices are. And especially in this cancel culture era, people's voices are loud. And if we raise up our voices loud enough on something or against something or for something, it gets attention.
Yeah.
And so you don't get the change that you want to see by lowering your voice. You get the change that you want to see by raising your voice. And so your vote is indeed your voice, right? Your activism, your involvement is your voice. Your participation is your voice. These are all things that you control. And so finding ways that your voice is heard, whether it's through a petition, whether it's through a town hall, whether it's through writing your congressman, whether it's through emailing your council person, all of those things are part of your voice. Mm-hmm. And then of course your ultimate voice is what's your vote. And so making sure that you are engaged, and then encouraging those who around you. You know, sometimes we talk about voting casually. You know, like, did you vote? Okay, that's cool. No, it's not cool. I mean, it really isn't. It really
right.
is. I mean, you're really inconveniencing me right now by not voting. I mean, you really are. I mean, you literally chilling and hanging out and having a good time, and meanwhile, we having to fight harder for these things, and so, you know, wanting to get to the point where where people see how this affects their everyday life. Like, this is your life. And I know, again, we joked and we said something about so many elections, but it really is our life, right? Yeah. This really is important to us. And you have a say-so in the quality of your life. And if you choose to allow somebody else to talk and to work on your behalf, and you don't raise your voice, how will your needs and how will your desires be met? So please lend your voice, lend your service, lend your activism, but also help us hold people accountable. Even if you have elected somebody who you like, hold them accountable after we, and that goes for any. And again, this is not partisan. This goes for all part. Any person who elected, our job is to elect quality people, but also to hold them accountable once they're in office.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. It's to not just show up to the poll, but to also show up to the council meeting. To not just show up to the poll, but also show up to the school board meeting. To not just show up to the poll, but show up to Capitol and hear these arguments and let your voice be heard. Listen, Governor, and you all are debating this, but this is what we need in our city. I'm hearing all of these hours spending on this, but I haven't heard this issue brought up. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Right? You have that voice. You have that right as a person, and do that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like I said earlier, I like my representatives that almost every level of government, but I do make a point to engage with them. For example, my wife and I were walking around the neighborhood as we do most evenings with the baby. And one of the main kind of thoroughfares in our neighborhood, after all the rain we had like some enormous potholes. And we saw it for 2 or 3 days. And like, there's no way for anyone with the city to know what is happening on every block of every city in town. It's a huge ass city, right?
Sure.
And I was like, man, this is like dangerous. And it was, as we're walking, I'm like, I could just sit here and say, ooh, this pothole is dangerous. Or I could take the literally 2 minutes to type out an email to, my city council member or, Ward 2 at okc.gov. Hey, councilman, here's where the pothole is. Like, it's really big. I wouldn't bring this to your attention if it was just a little one, but like, this is a big deal. And send an email, right? And I know my city council member that is pretty responsive, and I'm confident that he or his assistant passed it off to the works department. And I was probably not the only one that reported it, but it's been fixed, right? It's the little,
small things.
And if you're willing to raise a flag about a pothole, you better be ready to raise a flag about kids' safety.
Yes. And again, and tires are expensive. Ask me how I know, right? So
yeah.
So I'm definitely am for us, fixing our streets and potholes and things. But to your same point, we are seeing a crisis in the village, and we're not saying anything, right? We're seeing we're seeing all of the dangers, all of the signs, and we are ignoring them. And at some point, we have to lift up our voice, right? We have to say, listen, we need you. We need you to speak. We need you to speak on these things. Listen, our wages have not went up in such time, right? We need this to. We need you to have that same. We need you to lift your voice on those things and say, hey, where's this thing at? Or we want to make sure that our rec centers are open, and there are so many things again that you have a voice and have a space to kind of lift, and you should continue to do that, and make sure that your voice is heard.
Yeah. Well, and I think how do I say this? I'm just going to say it straightly. Twitter does not care about your complaints.
No,
right?
Not at all.
And there's a psychological effect, and I can't remember the name of it. I was trying to Google it. I'm sure one of our listeners will correct me on this. Is there's a psychological effect of when you tell someone you're going to do something, you are less likely to do it because the act of telling them I'm going to do something diminishes your internal drive, right? So if you say, I'm going to vote, and this is not always the case with voting. If you make a plan and people walk you through that with traditional GOTV stuff, in those cases you're more likely. But if you say I'm going to clean the house on Saturday, you're well, I've already said I was going to do it. And so you're a little bit less likely to do it. And I worry that social media is that for so many people. We have all this pent up anger, and what do we do with it? We fire off a tweet, and that's it. And Twitter does not print that and mail it to your legislator. If you spent that same energy, type in almost the same thing
to your legislator.
To a legislator, it makes a difference, right?
The same thing.
It's wild. Session's over, and something I'm thinking about for next year, or session's almost over, but next year I'm thinking about how to encourage people to take I don't know how to brand it as a staycation, but taking some time off work to go to the Capitol, which is an inconvenience, and people would rather spend their time elsewhere. I understand, but could you take half a day to go up there, take a few hours to go up there and talk to your legislator? And maybe we'll frame it if you got to take off work to go to the dentist, nobody likes doing that, but we all know we should. Same deal, right? Take off work to go and make an appointment to go see your legislator and tell them what matters to you. Mm-hmm. It may not make a difference, sure.
Sure.
But it might, right?
It might.
And not going definitely won't. So like you've got a chance at making an impact. And if you go even once, you have a much better chance of nudging them in the right direction. And if you do it regularly, you follow up with an email or a phone call or something, like you can be part of the solution to moving our state forward.
The best, the best advice that then coach of the Golden State Warriors, Mark Jackson, when he had a young duo in Clay and Steph, he named them the Splash Brothers, but he gave them some advice. He told them to keep shooting, even when they miss. Keep shooting, right? Because you miss every shot you don't take. And so if you don't call your representative, if you don't reach out, if you don't let your voice heard, if you don't at least try to shoot, you're definitely going to miss, right? And so keep shooting, keep sending out emails, keep stay in your representative DMs, right? Let your voice be heard. And again, our voices are powerful, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about ultimately lifting up the voices of the people, and those who are representing the people to hear those voices, and to work on behalf of those who they represent. That's all we're asking for. Imagine that. We're not asking for anything obscene. We're just asking for people to do their jobs.
Right.
We're just asking for people to represent us fairly, and to be concerned about. To be equally concerned about things that we're concerned about. I'm sure those same potholes that we talked about, different things, like people pass them as well, but the larger things that we obviously see as happening, that we can be a part of, we can do a better job in certainly doing so. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's exactly right. Well, Pastor Mac, as we wind down, we got probably 5 or so minutes left. At the risk of doing what I just said we shouldn't do, of like saying we're going to do something and not do it, but I trust us.
Sure.
I think we're going to do this.
Yeah.
We were talking about the idea of an early vote party.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And you made
first of all, I love a good party.
Yeah.
So
right.
So that's first and foremost. So any excuse to get people together to have a good time, I'm certainly for. But I want us to engage in voting as if it's a party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so making it an event, making it a part of our regular thing. The reason why I vote as much as I vote now is because my mother made it a big deal.
Yeah.
Right? My mother let me go walk into the poll with her, and she would talk to me about the candidates who she liked or was thinking about, and asking my opinions on this and how this affects me and X, Y, and Z. Because why? She's going into the poll, she's voting for herself, but she's also voting on behalf of her son.
Mm-hmm.
And so, she was asking me my thoughts on things because she's voting on with me in mind as well, right? Now, of course, I'm sure at my age, at a young age, I probably didn't like somebody just because they had a bad hair or something like that, right? But the reality is that voting is so last year was my first time voting in OKC, and I wanted to make it an event, right? This is my first time here. I'm out in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting into some good trouble, right? It's my first election, and so I wanted to invite my friends to be with me, and so I did. And so I invited people to come vote with me. They hung out with me. We went and voted. We had some fish at the end because it was a Friday, and so we had fish at the church. Anybody who just voted stopped by. They got some fish, and it was such a good fellowship. And what I want to see happen is more people collectively, again, especially around early voting, right? If we have a window for early voting, take somebody with you. Take your friends, right? Take you and your coworkers. Y'all getting ready to go to happy hour. Stop by the county office on your way there. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You getting ready to hit Kendrick? We support that. Go ahead and stop by the county office on your way there. You getting ready to go to Elmer's? We support that. Stop by the county office. That's all we're saying, right? And stop by, cast your vote. Go have a good time. But the whole idea is this: if we do making it fun, voting elections are about our lives, but also it should be fun for us to move forward. It should be a good time for us making progress, us working together.
Mm-hmm.
And so and I want to. So next year, we're not just talking about it. We're going to do it, right? I mean, period.
Yeah.
We're partying on elections. We're gathering people together to vote together, and we're have a little kickback, make it exciting, right? We have the power. We get together for everything else. Let's get together for something like this. So yes, I look forward to having talking about this more and more. But certainly getting people to engage in party and have a voting party. And so I'm all for that for sure.
Well, and I'm all for this as well. And so you're going to invite your friends. I'm going to invite my friends.
You bring your friends. I bring my friends, and we can all be friends.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Early voting, as a reminder to our listeners, is generally, I think for general elections now, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning before Election Day.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some time. And so I think over the next year and a half,
sure,
Pastor Mac and I are going to make some plans for how we can make this like an extended party over those few days.
Absolutely.
There will be food, there'll be music.
Sure.
Podcast. Who knows, right?
Who knows?
Dance
right?
parties in the church parking lot, something.
Live podcast from the thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, but.
And you know what's funny is, so in Oklahoma County, at least, the county election board is on Lincoln, right?
Okay.
Which is more, Lincoln 235 is like because of redlining. This is the line of demarcation between the whites and the blacks, right? The northeast side is a black community, the northwest side is a white community, and sad as that history is, we have the opportunity to come together on that line, and vote together, right? And then to go over to your house and have the party.
Come on over to Fame OKC. Come on over to Fame OKC. When you get done voting, come right around the corner from the county commission office. So listen, when you get done, I may throw something on the grill.
There we go.
We got the fish spot. I got some stuff.
Fish. My sister owns a barbecue place, so we can can make this happen.
There we go. I'm saying so. I am all for it. I want to see it happen because again, and it's fun. Number one, it felt good. Number one, and shout out to all the back to the AME. Shout out to all the AMEs, right?
Yeah.
And all of our friends who hung out with me that day when I went to go vote. Thank y'all, right? Because again, my first time voting in Oklahoma City, and I had some amazing people to come with me to vote. And again, it was good to see, and I want to see more of that happen. Take your adult children, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take your children. Come bring your mama and them, and bring your cousins. Bring everybody out with you. Again, making an event. Even if you don't stop by Fame at the end of voting, right? If you're on your way to wherever you're going, right? Stop by together and make it an event. And how dope is it that as before we turn up, we turned out.
Right.
Before matter of fact, that should be the slogan.
That's
before we turn
there.
up, let's turn out.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is the unspoken piece is that when you vote individually in your precinct, which is fine,
sure,
but you're by yourself. It's a lonely experience.
It's a lonely experience.
But everybody in the county can vote early at the county election board. So that's like our one opportunity to come together.
It's your one opportunity.
And maybe the line is 2 hours long, and that's okay.
And listen, if the line could be 2 hours, listen, that's fine, right? But the reality is this: let's get it done.
Let's get it done.
Let's get it done. And again, back to you about cleaning our houses. The earlier we start, the more likely we are to get done. Right. And so let's get started early. This is why we're talking about it now. This is why we're talking about things before we have an election, before we have these things come up, like to be alert and to be aware of what we can be thinking about and how we can really be making plans of action going forward.
That's right. If you live in other counties, do this yourself. Create this party. We'll help you brainstorm. We'll make it happen.
Sure.
That's right. Turn out before you turn up. That's good.
Turn out before you turn up. That's the phrase of the day.
That is. Well, and I want to end with another phrase that I thought I would weave in at some point today, and we had a great conversation. I didn't. but it's a phrase that I always associate with you since the first time we met, and that is friends will help.
Yeah. So friends,
You knew that was coming, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. Yeah, friends will help is my life slogan. Dr. Samuel Chan gave this speech at Beulah Heights University's commencement some years ago when I graduated. I won't say how many years ago I graduated from college, right? But he had this scenario where he talked about friends will help you, and if you are engaging in anything significant, your friends will want to see you win. And so, what I am loving in this space, especially being in the big friendly, right?
Yeah.
Is that friends will help. And so what I'm hoping is to, through this podcast and through people seeing me and meeting me, that they know that they have a friend, and then I'm hoping that my friends will help. And I think Clarence Avon said, I don't have problems when I have friends. You don't have problems when you have friends. And I'm a part of a fraternity, a black fraternity. Shout out to Omega Sapphire Fraternity Incorporated, right? Mm-hmm. Friendship is essential to the soul, and so we need friends. We cannot. We are not built. We are not here to go through life by ourselves. We need each other. So, friend, I need you. I need you to help. I need you to come out and vote. Yeah. Friend, I need you to help me organize. Friend, I need you to support this. Friend, we need each other. And so I'm hoping, the Bible says, if one wants a friend, he must first show himself to be friendly. And so my idea and my goal is to be a friend to everyone in hopes of gaining a friend. And then of course, friends will help. So friends will help us make the changes. Friends will help us move things forward. Friends will help us go higher. Friends will help us turn things out and turn up, right? And so yeah, friends will help, and that's my motto. That's what I live by. That's a phrase that I want to continue to inspire people with. That friends will help. So you have a dream, you have an ambition, you have a goal. Start it. You want to do something, start it. Your friends will have your back. Your friends will help you. People will see what you're doing and want to join up with you. So get along in this fight. Get along with you in your life. Friends are there to support you, and so I hope today listening, you know that you have a friend in Pastor Mac. You have a friend in Andy. You have a friend in us, and we're here to help and help your lives better. We're here to help your voices be heard. We're here to help you get to the point where you realize that there are people out here who have the same interests as you, who are fighting on your behalf, fighting with you, who are loving on you, who are praying on you, who are hugging on you, who are concerned about your well-being. So, friends, I thank you all for having me today, and I'm so grateful for that you all will help us make OKC the place that we know that it can be.
That's right. That's exactly right, Pastor Mac. I'm glad we're friends.
I'm glad we're friends, Andy. I'm glad, and we have a water ice situation coming up.
That's right.
So friends also share water ice.
There you go. Mm-hmm. Listeners, I'm glad we're friends too. Thanks for being here this week. Have a happy, safe, restful holiday weekend. Remember, friends will help, and decisions are made by those who show up. See you next week.